The college football experience, Northwestern Wildcats 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN and claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football and college basketball. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, everybody, Jim McMahon here, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Football experience, Northwestern Flying Squirrels 2024 season preview episode. Oh, I said fly. I meant Wildcats. 2024 season preview episode. YouTube.com/the college experience. Remember, we are going through all 134 teams in the land. All the SEC previews are out. All right. All the Mountain West previews are out, and most of the Big Ten is out as we continue on this voyage. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swiggin, Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes! It's a good point. Fat Mr. Met. All right. YouTube.com/the college experience seasons. When does Northwestern change their name to the Flying Squirrels? Well, they should. Wildcat is offensive. That could mean a lot of things.
In certain circles, yeah.
I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh!
Let's go. It's Wildcat time. All right.
But
it is Wildcat time. It is Flying Squirrel time.
Let me ask you this. The movie Wildcats was based on a Chicago, Central High School football team. A slightly different probably population than Northwestern has, but it's got to still have a little bit of meaning. Wildcats, maybe a Chicago thing. Maybe they need the first woman coach in college football.
Is that Goldie Hawn? Is that what
Goldie
you're saying?
Hawn.
There?
Maybe they need to hire Goldie Hawn.
Yeah. I mean, they'll probably fire her. They'd probably fire her for bullshit like they did with Pat Fitzgerald.
Well, I tell you what, I feel like I saw the car wash going on in Wildcats, just like it did under Pat Fitzgerald's tenure as coach. So, not so different.
Well, I don't get they bring the head coach.
They did him dirty. I'm eager to see how this works out. He might be a very rich man, though, so I shouldn't feel that bad for him. But Pat Fitzgerald, one of the legendary players from Northwestern. But hey, look, one of the last great things he did for Northwestern before they fucked over his life was he hired David Braun. And hey, he hired him as defensive coordinator, came over from North Dakota State, and put him in a position to win because the team won 8 games last year. Let's talk about that. But before I do that, I want to tell you. hang on. I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on. I want to tell you folks out there that you are listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And look, check out the latest episode of SGP Stories. It's out now on Patreon. The guys, myself, Stacking the Money Green, Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast, do a forensic files deep dive on the Bobby Petrino motorcycle accident that cost him his job about a decade ago. I may or may not been wearing a neck brace with a Sugar Bowl hat and an Arkansas sweatshirt, but check it out. Plus, make sure to check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast, as Terrell and Scott have started out red hot with their locks. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, we're back talking Northwestern Wildcat football and
Hey,
what were you gonna say though, buddy?
I was gonna say this team since 1892 is when Sports Reference has them starting their football program. For all we know, it may have been earlier, but 1892 is when Sports Reference has it started. What is that? 131 years. They have four 10-win seasons during that entire 130-year stretch. Pat Fitzgerald was either a player or the head coach in all of those 4 seasons.
And it would have been 5 because in 2020, if the Big Ten weren't a bunch of pussies with their COVID, they went 7-2 that year. Wait, how's that possible? How's that? Because they played the Big Ten championship. Because I was about to say, didn't they only have a 5 or 6 game season? Okay, yeah, they played the Big Ten championship game.
We're still smarting about Pat Fitzgerald's, ejection from the head coaching position at Northwestern.
Well, it just seems, the more you dive into it, the more it seems like he really had no fucking idea. Now you could say, well, he should know, but at the same time, I mean, it's like Mike Leach told me when we were hanging out with Leach, he was like, there's 100 players involved. When you add 100 players and a staff, he's like, is there gonna be some bad apples? Sure. He's
you
like,
really have to know everything that's going on at all times with everyone.
That's impossible. He says,
yeah, it's a ridiculous expectation.
Yeah. And he was like, you go to church on a Sunday morning. He's like, you go in that church, it doesn't matter. You can put 100 nuns in there. There's gonna be some pieces of shit. You know what I mean? So anyway, we'll see how that works out. But hey, I can tell you this: David Braun, given a good opportunity, even though we disagree with the way Fitzgerald went out.
He did pretty damn well in year 1.
He ran with it. YouTube.com. I got some fire graphics for you. You want to hop on over there. Patty C, when will they go back to this logo? What do you think of it? Should they go back to that logo?
Let me switch back over here. They should, although it looks like it's a Nintendo NES maybe character there.
YouTube.com/the college experience. So look, he was 8-5 in year 1. This is a guy that's coached at some good FCS programs: UC Davis, Northern Iowa, North Dakota State. He goes out this year and hires Zach Lujan. It could be Lujan. I don't know. And he brings in defense coordinator Tim McCargill. Great names.
2 new coordinators. That is a little bit concerning.
Well, you got to remember that Fitzgerald thing happened last July, so he kind of was stuck. He couldn't make changes. He was an interim head coach. He went 8-5, and then he hired some new coordinators.
Lujan came from
South Dakota State. South Dakota State. Yeah.
Defending national champions and Tim
back-to-back national champions.
There it is. Defending that's right. 2-time national champion, South Dakota State. Tim McCarrigal was the interior defensive line linebackers coach, and now he's been elevated to defensive coordinator. So at least there's a little continuity there on the defensive side of the ball from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah. And 8-5. You look back at last season. First off, no Northwestern coach in their first year has ever won a bowl game. He accomplished that. You look back at a year ago. Now, here's the thing: I wonder, was it a flash in the pan, Patty C? Because if you look at throughout Northwestern's history, they're a lot like we were talking about Baylor in this regard. How they could win 10 games one year and 2 the next. We saw that in 18 they won 9 games. 19 they won 3, and 20 they were 7-2. But once again, like they probably would have won 10 or 11 had there been. They didn't play. They had a Big Ten only schedule and then beat Auburn in the bowl game. So, yeah,
this is the only team. They went starting in 2018 over 60%, under 30%, over 70%, under 30%, under 1 and 8. They had 11% winning percentage, and then bam, back up to 55%. They are all over the place. Like
always, though. You go back to Gary Barnett, 3-7 next year, 10-2. You know what I mean? Like go back to Randy Walker, 3-8 next year, 8-4. It's kind of been their MO.
It's almost like they are a poor man's Iowa, right? And they play in a bunch of close games, and while Iowa more often is able to get the win in some close games, Northwestern more often takes the loss. But on one of their better seasons, they get the close wins in those.
Yeah, and if you look last year, they beat Minnesota in overtime by 3. They beat Howard by 3 out of the FCS. They lost to Nebraska by 1 score. They beat Maryland by 1 score. They lost to Iowa at Wrigley, which I love the game at Wrigley, by 3 points. They beat Utah in the bowl game. I know Utah didn't have anybody by 1 score. They beat Purdue by 1 score. They beat Illinois by 1 score. So you're talking, I mean, that the margin for error is just so fragile in these games that they play. Should we expect that again this year, Patty C?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to what is coming back. And I think there is a little bit of talent coming back, but still, is that enough to be a reliable winner?
Yeah. But I can tell you this, that they ended up extending him, giving him a real contract after that year. I think they had to acknowledge that, whoa, what did we stumble upon here? This guy can really coach. So now we should talk about this.
Yeah, I'll say this. We were all expecting after Pat Fitzgerald went down in what month of last year, like May or June?
No, July
of last year that, whoever stepped into this coaching position was going to get rolled. David Braun did an amazing job in year 1, 8-5. So let's give credit where it's due. I mean, to all of us Pat Fitzgerald fans, we were hoping for Northwestern to fail, but let's be honest. Like, I have nothing here or there against David Braun. He did an amazing job given the circumstances.
I agree. And let's talk about the circumstances this year, because you have a lot of close games, but they made the decision to move along from Ryan Field, which it broke my heart. I thought it was one of the stupidest decisions. I know, we talked about this on the Stadium Heads podcast. They are getting, they're doing some like $800 million new stadium. It looks like shit to me when you look at it just looks like one of the current bullshit stadiums with no personality.
Looks like a high school stadium.
Well, no, not the one. I'm talking about the one they're building.
Oh, what? Yeah. I got to take a look at that. It has no personality.
But the one they're playing at this year is going to be this one right here, youtube.com/the college experience. This is fucking hilarious, dude. It's basically on, what is that, Lake Michigan. And
damn, it looks like it's surrounded on 3 sides by the lake.
It's going to be great, dude. But once again, I mean, it's hilarious, but we'll get to, they blew my mind on one of their decisions.
Just build that fucking stadium. That's great right there. Just expand it.
Agreed, but they're doing like a soccer stadium, dude. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to this. But great first season for David Braun. We'll see if he can continue on that. We talk about the bad losses with all the schools, the Power 5 schools since 2000. Northwestern, one of the strangest programs ever, because you have that many double-digit win seasons. If I pulled up Maryland, they would have like 1 double-digit season. Northwestern's got a slew of them. But at the same time, they do have 3 losses to TCU when they were a group of 5, 2 losses to Bowling Green, 2 losses to Air Force, 2 losses to Miami, Ohio, a loss.
None of those teams in their conference. They just got slaughtered in their home and home non-conference matchups here, it seems like.
Well, how about like the FCS opponents? New Hampshire beat them Illinois State beat them. Southern Illinois, the Salukis beat them. And last year they only beat Howard by 3. I mean, they won 8 games.
I mean,
beat Howard by 3.
You talk about some of the other teams that are borderline FCS status. I don't know if Hawaii counts as that. Hawaii's had some good years, but
Akron counts as that.
Nevada, Army, fucking Western Michigan's been all right, but dude, those are bad losses.
That's why they're a hilarious team, because some of those years, I was looking, one of those years was a 10-win season where they lost to an FCS. It's like, how did you win 10 games and still lose to an FCS? It's been fascinating, but yeah, that's Northwestern. The margin for error, once again, the thing that we brought up is always a factor.
Just ball control football. That's what they're doing. Is that what Barnett was doing? He came from Colorado, correct?
Yes. Yeah, he was with.
I feel like at Colorado they were playing a really, I don't know about high octane offensively, but at least an exotic defensive, aggressive Bud Foster-esque style of defense.
Mike Hankwitz was the DC there, and he was with Barnett and Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern.
I mean, they were a notable defense during that time, so maybe it was defensively that they, made their mark. I mean, who is it? Audrey Denson? That was Denson was Notre Dame.
Darnell Autry.
Yeah, I always get those two confused.
They
had a great team in '95. That was a Big Ten champion team, right? Or at least contender. Look, I don't know. This is a schedule that is. They have taken some bad losses over the years. You would
agreed. We're going to talk about the upcoming season. Maybe there's some losses to some more schools. In fact, Miami, Ohio is on the schedule. Could it be the third time Miami, Ohio gets them since the year 2000? We're going to talk about it, but before we do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience, Northwestern Wildcats, Northwestern Flying Squirrels episodes brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries as well. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams, ATS, each week and compete for $6 million or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. Don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season? May I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend? It's a great time to go out. If you do, you can hang with my pals, Stacking the Money Green and Brian Real Money Kramer, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, we are back talking Wildcat football here. Let's talk about the offense from a season ago, Patty C. Well, they were 104th in scoring per game, 22.1 points per game. 10th best in the Big Ten out of 14 teams. Now it's like 1,000 teams. But,
yeah.
But hey, they won 8
How
games.
the hell do you go to 8-5 with the 10th out of 14 offense in the Big Ten, which isn't itself a super offensive conference?
Yeah, I think that's how. Because they were 10th in yards, they were 9th in passing, they were 13th in rushing, the second worst rushing attack in the Big Ten. But the irony here is if you look at the Big Ten rankings from an offensive standpoint, the team that was dead last won double-digit games. And that's the Iowa Hawkeyes.
That is Big Ten football.
You want to be terrible on offense to have a good season. All right, coming into the year,
I'm sure Rutgers was probably pretty low too, and they went.
Yeah. We'll get to them soon. They got 6 starters back on the offensive side of the ball. Patty C. Cam Porter, who I always liked his game at the running back spot. AJ Henning and Bryce Kirtz started at wideout last season. Another guy, Frank Covey, is a guy to keep keep an eye out on because he's a name to remember because he had a couple good games early in the season and he had a season-ending injury, had a big spring. 3 back on the offensive line: Josh Thompson, Bren Rather, and Caleb Tiernan. Kicker Jack Olsen back as well. What's that?
Cam Porter at 3.9 yards per rush was their leading rusher. Joseph Haman the third, 3.9 rushes was their second leading rusher, or is their second leading returning rusher. And Jack Louse, 4.2 yards per rush. They need better production from their backs. I don't care if they're returning; it needs to be better. I
agree. But the O-line, but you won 8 games.
Super ball control offense.
If they get worse on offense, they could win 10. Now the quarterback situation is one we got to talk about here because in the portal they lost young Brennan Sullivan heads out to Iowa. I love how Iowa looked at Northwestern and said, "That's the offense I want. Give me Brennan Sullivan. Give me Jacob Gill, the wideout." Both of them left for Des Moines.
Let's upgrade with
Iowa
Northwestern's quarterback.
So Sullivan and Gill going to Iowa City, not Des Moines. I don't know what I'm thinking. Cole Freeman also left for Columbia. Anthony Tyus to Ohio, the Bobcats. And their best offensive lineman heads out to the Michigan Wolverines and Josh Preeb. And also another good offensive lineman, Alexander Deuce, heading out to the Arizona Wildcats from one Wildcat to another. They also lost offensive tackle Zachary Franks to Duke. They're on the schedule this year. So kind of got, let's not bullshit it. They got kind of destroyed in the portal, I would say. You agree?
Yeah. And I would say this, like, if you're Northwestern at this point, what do you expect to be? Are you the farm league for the high-end Big Ten teams that have more money to offer, that have a slew of pro players on their roster and Big Ten / national championship aspirations on a yearly basis? I don't think Northwestern can compete with that. So you're kind of a developmental team at this point, and your best bet is to have a dynamic coach that is ahead of the curve from a X's and O standpoint. But if you're talking about personnel, you're going to get rated unless you do something from an NIL standpoint. I believe they probably have plenty of money. I just feel like Northwestern is not the type of school to
like
give
Stanford.
It away. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Stanford, and a lot of times you can't get guys in with because of their grades. But there is no more Big Ten West, so I think they need to consider all these things, or they might get dropped long term. Say 20 years, next 10, 20 years. They brought in Mike Wright at the quarterback spot. It says Mississippi State here. He started more games at Vanderbilt than he did at Mississippi State. I'm hearing he's going to be their starting quarterback. I know they have Jack Lausch, who also is kind of a running quarterback there. Either way, when I know that they went out and hired South Dakota State's OC, they would kind of run Mark Gronowski more than. Gronowski's a solid passing quarterback too, but he would run for some yards too. I'll be eager to watch this offense with both those quarterbacks. I'm seeing Wright's their guy, I think, though. The offensive line, they did bring in a USC transfer on the offensive line, Cooper Lovelace. Also offensive
related
tackle,
to Linda in any way, do you think?
Offensive tackle Matt Keeler coming in from Texas Tech, and Jack Bailey coming in from Colorado. He started with the Buffs last year, so getting some production, but still, I would say they still lost the portal on the offensive side of the ball. You would agree?
Cooper Lovelace is going to swallow up defenders if he's got any relation to Linda. Let's be honest. Look, no, yeah, I think.
Well, I don't get the brain, man.
I would say it's an L on the offensive side of the ball on the transfer portal.
Yeah. But before we get to the defensive side of the ball, I want to tell you that the Northwestern Wildcats season preview is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So what are you doing, folks? Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, we are back talking Wildcat football. The defensive side of the ball, that was Braun's specialty at North Dakota State. 40th in scoring defense.
It's respectable.
Out of 133 teams this season ago, 22.5 points per game they gave up. That was 9th best in the Big Ten. 35th in yards. That was also 9th best in the Big Ten. They had the 6th best pass defense in the Big Ten, though, 15th nationally. However, the run defense wasn't legit. Dead last in the Big Ten in run defense.
That's kind of incredible that they're a mediocre Big Ten passing defense, and yet they're 15th in the country. It just shows how inept Big Ten passing is.
Well, you got the weather. It's is all that going to change with USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA coming?
You should expect those schools to at least, take a while to get away from their bread. But I don't think they're ever going to. I think they're going to be in the Big Ten, and they're just going to be throwing the ball around, whether it works or whether it doesn't work. And, the home games, I expect them to dominate when the weather's good. When they go on the road in December to the likes of Northwestern, then they're going to look pretty bad, So
yeah, it should be fun to watch with all the. I mean, look, I hate it, but it should be fun to watch. They returned 8 starters on defense. The whole defensive line: Jalen Pate, RJ Pearson, Carmine Bastone, all back, as well as Richie Haggerty. 2 linebackers back: Xander Muller and Robert Fitzgerald. There's always a Fitzgerald in the linebacking core, Patty C. All right.
Gotta be.
They got 2 back in the secondary: safety Devin Turner and cornerback Theron Johnson. Punter Luke Akers back as well. Patty C, I mean, they return more production, and with Mike Wright coming in, they might run the quarterback a little bit more. That I think could help the rushing stats some. It's funny doing these previews because I was coming in there thinking, hey, this team's going to be, they won so many close games last year. They're due for regression. And I still believe that, but they do return a shit ton of production.
Let me take a little peek here at the returning production on the defensive side. You said Pate is probably the
8 starters back.
8 starters back. Give me those names.
Jalen Pate, right there on the screen. RJ Pearson, Carmine Bastone, Richie Haggerty, all on the defensive line. Linebackers.
It seems like I'm looking at the stats. Not many of these dudes were high-end performers on the defensive side of the ball. Let me rattle. I'm not looking at the stats. I'm not looking at the screen. I'm looking at the stats. Tell me which of these guys is returning right now. Bryce Gallagher. Nope. Xander Mueller. Did you say he's back?
Yeah, he's back.
Okay, second leading tackler with 5 sacks, 3 interceptions. That's a huge production guy. That's the number 2 guy.
All Big Ten a season ago.
Okay, so that's a good guy to get back. What about Rod Hurd? Nope. Third leading tackler, Devin Turner. Nope.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. He's back. Yeah.
Devin Turner's back. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What about Garrett Hollis?
I believe he is gone, but
Coco Azima.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
Okay, so about it seems like at the top of their rotation, about half the guys are back. So where did their defense rank nationally last year?
Nationally, they were 40th in scoring per game, 35th in yards per game.
Okay, and if you're returning about half your production, I guess you can be excited about your defensive prospects. Given the
I'm sorry,
talent.
dude. If you're returning 8 starters from a year ago, that's really good.
Generally speaking, yes, I would have to agree with you.
Because those guys are going to get better. Anyway, let's take a look at this smoking hot win total here. By the way, actually, I should touch on what they lost. They did lose Matt Lawson to New Mexico State. They lost Garrett Hollis to West Virginia. Jaheim Joseph to West Virginia. 2 corners going to West Virginia. Rod Hurd, the second, went to Notre Dame. Nigel Williams to New Mexico, and Bronco Mendenhall. They did add Nigel Glover, a linebacker from Ohio State, Patty C, that was originally signed with Northwestern, A flying squirrel shit happened. He jumped over to Ohio State. Now he transfers into Northwestern. Linebacker Noah Taylor also coming over from the Cornell Big Red Freshmen. But Patty C, the win total sitting at 4.5 wins. The
disrespect is real.
They're plus 20,000 to win the Big Ten championship. They're plus 10 or 100,000 to win the national championship. Don't have playoff odds yet. I hear they're coming at the end of the month.
Is it that big of disrespect though? If we're looking back, let's say over the last 5 years of the program, 3-9, 7-2, 3-9, 1-11, 8-5. I don't think anyone has any idea on any given year what to expect out of this team.
Well, I can say this: we've only seen 1 year of David Braun. All right, only 1 year. So throw out the other shit. Shout out to the chat. Tyler says he's got him 4-8. He says so. He's on the under. Look, my first thought was under 2. My first thought was they won so many damn close games a season ago. There's no more Big Ten West. They're going to have to get some of these West Coast teams. So let's jump into this thing. But what was your first thought? Over or under without looking at the schedule, Petty C?
With 4-8 being the number?
No, 4.5 is the number.
4.5. I still want to lean under without really giving it much of a glance. I mean, over rather. I still want to lean over. They were 8-5 last year. I'm talking about 5 wins gets me home. Yeah, I'll take the over at first glance.
Yeah. Let's jump into it because week 1, the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, who won the MAC, are coming in to that lakeside resort right there to play the Wildcats. Patty C, this is a dangerous ass game because Miami, Ohio's beaten them twice already in the past 20 years. Can they make it 3 times in a row? Why do I feel like Brett Gabbert is back from Miami, Ohio? Call me crazy. I think this is anyone's game. I kind of think Miami, Ohio is going to win.
I think you absolutely have to be very scared about it. I mean, flip a coin here. Let's use this with another coin flip game, and we'll give them 1 win and 1 loss. And I think that might be the next game on the schedule, which is hosting the Duke Blue Devils.
No, I don't have this as a coin flip game because Duke whoops their ass every time they play.
That's true, but this game is in Evanston. It is Manny Diaz's second game as the head coach. I feel like there's a slight advantage to Northwestern here.
No,
I got him 1-1. I got him 1-1. I'm not having them go 0-2 here.
The Duke's won 5 straight against them. That's with 2 different coaches. That's with a terrible Duke team in 21.
Duke has whipped their ass. I'm not gonna dance around that.
I'll take Malik Murphy and his athleticism, and Duke's. They've thrown a lot of money into football recently. So I got him 0-2. I got him 0-2.
1-1. So we're gonna disagree there. Ryan Field. Why is this game supposed to be at Ryan Field? I think football schedules has this misplaced here. Both of these games.
Well, I don't get.
Both these games are Evanston, right?
Dude, both are at that fucking this stadium.
Larry and Sharon Martin Stadium.
Yes. Anyway, back to the schedule. Eastern Illinois, the Panthers are coming to town. Tony Romo's alma mater, Garoppolo's alma mater. I will say they beat this. They beat EIU. Give me a 1-2. How about you?
2-1.
Now they head to Seattle to take on Jed Fish in Washington.
That's a loss.
It's winnable, but I'll take Washington. I'll take Washington.
Okay, 1-3 for you, 2-2 for me. Bye week here, and then they're hosting Indiana.
I favor Indiana because there's not much of a home edge here.
I'm a lot higher on Northwestern than you are. It looks like I got them at 3-2. You got them at what? 1-4.
Yep. Now, just to play devil's advocate here, give me them to upset Maryland on October 12th.
Well, I guess that evens things up because I have them losing to Maryland. So
they beat Maryland last year with Tua or with Tolia.
Yeah. Well,
Maryland replacing their entire offensive line. They're starting
now it's in College Park. No, I don't think that this is a guaranteed win for Maryland or Northwestern. I think it's a good game. I just think in College Park, Maryland, it's a little bit of a trip for Northwestern. I'm going to give it to Maryland.
Fair. I'll give it to Northwestern. I mean, it's a 50-50 game. I'll say by now, one of those 50-50 games hits. Maybe it's Washington. Maybe it's Maryland.
You got them at 2-3. I got them at 3-2. That's what it is.
No, I have them at 2-4. What are you talking about?
Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, you're right. Yeah, you have them 2-4. I think I have them at 3-3 then. That must be what it is.
Then the Wisconsin Badgers come to town. I favor Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Then they head to Iowa. Favor Iowa.
Yeah.
Then they head to Purdue on a back-to-back away. I favor Purdue.
Here's the thing. I think Northwestern has proven themselves to be a good enough program to get one of those three teams, even with two of those on the road and the home game against Wisconsin being a pretty significant challenge. Northwestern, how many? What do you think the spreads in each of those three games will be? Home against Wisconsin.
I'd say Wisconsin -5.
Okay, at Iowa.
Iowa -7.
Okay, and at Purdue.
Purdue -2.5.
I bet they get one of those. I bet they find.
That's fair.
Find enough in there.
I just don't have it. But then they get a bye week, and then they're home to Ohio State and at Michigan. Whew, back to back. See, hold on. They only do this to Northwestern or or Indiana. They don't do this shit to the name brands where they give them both back to back. They would never give Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan back to back.
Well, we looked at that. I want to say we looked at Ohio State's all-time schedule against Michigan. They never faced back-to-back road games going into the Michigan game ever bullshit. In the 120 years of them. Like, that is a very favorable schedule that they've been given over the course of their history.
100%. So, I got them losing both. Then they have Illinois, which to me, even if they beat Illinois, which I do think they could.
That's a winnable game.
By the way, let's talk about that Ohio State game. Northwestern, you fucking losers. All right?
Coming off the bye here.
This game's at Wrigley. Ohio State's been a finesse team lately. If you play it at this place, they're not going to be able to throw the ball in November with the wind coming right off of Lake Michigan. It helps your chances of beating a top 10 team, which you hardly ever do over your existence. You fucking idiots.
You may have a point. Certainly, I just think by having more seats in the stadium, you're just inviting more Ohio State fans to take over the crowd.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's my point, is like they're doing that. They just want the concessions from the Ohio State fans. They're not thinking about, you could have a win that could be remembered for fucking the next 100 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're terrible. This shows that you're not putting football first. All right. And may God have mercy on your soul, because this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. You should play there. It'd be so fantastic if you ruin their playoff chances by beating them, because they shouldn't, though. They wouldn't be able to throw a forward fucking pass with the winds coming off there. Oh, man.
What do you got their record overall?
I think it's going to be a 3-win team, 4-win team, somewhere between 3 and 4. I'm on the under. The schedule's harder this year, man. You look back at last season and you got Rutgers from the East, right? Even though they lost that game, but you also had UTEP, right? You also had Maryland, which I know Maryland's there, but you drew Ohio State and Michigan from the East this year when there's no divisions. So you got Ohio State and Michigan. You also got Washington, a trip across the country. As well.
One more time. What's that number set at? Over on
4.5.
4.5. That is close.
Well, and they still give you Wisconsin, Iowa. Come on. I mean, the schedule's harder than last season. I am on the under. I don't feel great about this play, though. You will not hear me locking it up, because I could build you a scenario where they open up 3-0 or 4-0. Actually, I could build you a scenario they open up at 4-0, because Washington lost everybody, and you're catching Jed Fish in the first month of his rebuild there in Seattle. And I think that's when you want to catch them. So like best case scenario, your ceiling, if you're a Northwestern fan of the Flying Squirrels, then I would say your best case scenario is like a 7 to 8 win season, but you have to win all those 50-50 games.
They've done it before. It's not that it's out of the realm of possibilities. It is though that, it is a little tougher looking this year. I'm going to disagree with you. I think the front of the schedule looks very manageable. I don't think 6-0 is out of the realm of possibilities here, but I'll say 4-2 in the first 6. And will they snag 1 in the last 6? I think so. I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over.
Feel good about it?
I feel a little bit good.
All right, there we go. I think I lean under, but like I said, I don't feel good about it because there's so many toss-up games. I mean, to be honest, they could lose to Eastern Illinois. They're better than Howard. It was a 3-point game against Howard last year.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to watch.
You can't just phone it in. You better come out and play.
I'm excited to watch Braun in year 2 though, because it seems like each week is a game that what game besides Ohio State and Michigan, they actually have played Iowa very well during the Ferentz era. So that game's actually winnable. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch.
Slate of football. I don't know if there's another game that I'm particularly interested in watching other than the 3 you already alluded to. I think maybe at Washington could be interesting, but not really. I think maybe hosting Wisconsin. Hosting Wisconsin's a big game.
The Ohio State game would be very interested if they played it at that field. Now, I normally love games played on Wrigley Field or Yankee Stadium to honor the history of the sport, but I mean, it's not that often that you get to play. This is like in basketball when you play on the aircraft carrier. You know what I mean? Like, look at that shit. Like you could skip rocks from the 20-yard line. Anyway, yeah, I lean under. Not a strong play. You will not hear this on the Locks episode. I'm excited to see this offense. I want to see if they run the quarterbacks more. I'll tell you that. I came in thinking I might lock up the under. But I really doing the deep dive. I like the hires that they did. So I think they might be.
I mean, I think we were all expecting the wheels to fall off after Pat Fitzgerald left, but they seem to have done a pretty good job plugging and playing at the coaching higher level. So they're in a pretty good position right now.
Yeah. And we got to get Pat Fitzgerald back coaching. Where would you like to see him land, Patty C?
I know he hates Notre Dame, so some place that wants to beat Notre Dame, wherever that may be.
Purdue, right?
Yeah, let's go Purdue.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. They got Ryan Walters right now. But folks, we're previewing all 134 teams. We got the Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes scheduled next. Go listen to the Nebraska preview. All the other Big Ten previews alphabetically. We also have the entire Mountain West out. I'll be at Mountain West Media Days in Vegas next week. Also, check out the SEC. We have all the SEC episodes out. Go check that out. We got the 12-team playoff. Patty C, before I leave you, last year you could make an argument that Northwestern was a game or so out of potentially arguing for a playoff spot, 9-3. And if you go back to 2020, they would have made the playoffs. In 2018, they would have probably made the playoffs. Could you imagine? Classic Ryan Field, not this new rendering bullshit, hosting a playoff game there.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and shout out to Cannabis Capper. Appreciate you folks. Until next time. Look, first off, give us a follow, youtube.com/the college experience. Subscribe, hit that like button, subscribe button, all that good stuff. We're on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Patty C's on Twitter at PattyC831. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. And make sure you check out the Stadium Heads podcast. We do a deep dive on Ryan Field and everything there and all the Big Ten stadiums, what makes the Big Ten so great, and college football stadiums, really just all of them. Check that out, Stadium Heads podcast. Check out the FCS college football experience for a little deep dive on Eastern Illinois. We got that one coming. All right, folks, till next time. This is the college football experience. Northwestern, wow. Wildcat style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking and the whole world's looking with the cameras. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And you know